Living in a community governed by a homeowners association, or HOA, can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, these organizations are designed to maintain property values and ensure a certain level of aesthetic appeal within neighborhoods. On the other hand, they often come with a set of strict rules that can feel suffocating to residents who wish to express their individuality. My story begins with an unwelcome letter from the HOA, which demanded that my lawn meet their stringent standards of perfection. The letter arrived on an otherwise ordinary day, a plain white envelope with the HOA's emblem glaring at me from the return address. I opened it, bracing myself for what lay inside. As I read through the contents, my heart sank. The HOA was not pleased with the state of my yard. It was deemed unkept. The grass was slightly longer than they preferred, and a few stray dandelions had dared to pop up amongst the blades of green. In their eyes, my yard was an eyesore, a blemish on what they envisioned as a pristine community. The expectations laid out in that letter were clear. My lawn needed to be perfect, lush, green, and uniform, devoid of any imperfections or wildflowers that dared to grow spontaneously. I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. Wasn't it enough that I mowed my lawn regularly? I took pride in my home and wanted it to reflect my personality and preferences. Yet here was this organization dictating how I should care for my yard based on their rigid standards. As I pondered over the HOA's demands, I couldn't help but feel the pressure weighing down on me. The letter served as a reminder of how closely our lives can be monitored in these communities. Maintaining an immaculate lawn seemed less about personal choice and more about adhering to an arbitrary set of guidelines imposed by a group of individuals who didn't know or care about me or my style. I began to wonder, is this really what suburban life is supposed to be like? It wasn't just about the lawn. It was about conformity versus individuality. The neighborhood was filled with houses that looked remarkably similar, each lawn manicured within an inch of its life, resembling a scene straight out of a magazine advertisement. I could feel myself being pulled into this mold and struggling against it. The very essence of homeownership, freedom of expression, seemed threatened by the expectations laid down by the HOA. As days passed after receiving that letter, I found myself increasingly frustrated but also inspired. Rather than succumb to the overwhelming pressure to comply with their demands, I thought, what if I took a different approach? What if instead of striving for perfection in line with their standards, I transformed my yard into something entirely unique? Thus began the idea that would ultimately lead to my winter wonderland. I imagined creating an enchanting display that would not only defy the HOA's notion of perfect, but also bring joy and delight to my family and neighbors during the long winter months. Instead of obsessing over every blade of grass or weed in my lawn, why not embrace creativity and celebrate the season? The thought sparked excitement within me, a way to channel my frustration into something fun and whimsical that could brighten our community. Inspired by this newfound determination, I began brainstorming ideas for my winter wonderland transformation. What would it include? How could I convey a sense of joy while simultaneously standing up against what felt like oppressive regulations? My vision started taking shape. Twinkling lights draped over trees, cheerful snowmen made from various materials, and perhaps even a few playful decorations that would capture the whimsy of winter. This journey would require planning, creativity, and most importantly, courage. As I contemplated this transformation further, I realized that turning my lawn into a winter wonderland would not only serve as an act of defiance, but also as an invitation for others in the neighborhood to join in on the fun. It could become a point of connection rather than division, a way for us all to embrace our individuality while finding joy in shared experiences. In this moment of reflection, I recognized that the HOA's demands did not define me or my home. Rather, they provided me with an opportunity to showcase who I truly am, and what better way to do so than through creativity? Little did I know then how this decision would lead me on an unexpected adventure filled with laughter, challenges, and community spirit. With newfound resolve blooming within me, I set forth on this journey toward crafting my own winter wonderland, a place where perfection would take on an entirely new meaning. This is where our story really begins. As I contemplated the HOA's demands, I found myself increasingly aware of the underlying pressure of perfection that permeated my community. It was more than just the expectation to have a well-manicured lawn. It was a reflection of a broader societal belief that everything must be flawless. The ideal of perfection seemed to echo in every corner of our neighborhood, where pristine lawns and uniform houses were not just encouraged but enforced. This pressure weighed heavily on me, causing an internal struggle. I had always taken pride in my home and my ability to create a warm, inviting space for my family. However, the notion that my yard had to meet an exacting standard felt stifling. The HOA's insistence on perfection turned what could have been a joyful expression of my personality into a source of anxiety and stress. I found myself obsessing over every blade of grass, worrying about potential citations, and feeling guilty for any imperfection that might tarnish the neighborhood's image. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how this quest for perfection extended beyond just lawns. It infiltrated our lives in various ways, through social media portrayals of idyllic lifestyles, through advertisements that depicted flawless homes and happy families, and even through conversations with friends and neighbors who seemed to effortlessly maintain their own versions of perfection. I began to feel like I was trapped in a never-ending cycle of comparison, a race where nobody ever truly wins. The pressure to conform to these lofty ideals took its toll on my mental health. I would sit at my kitchen table, staring out at my yard, feeling overwhelmed by the thought of how I would measure up against the standards set by others. Each time I received a reminder from the HOA or saw another neighbor's pristine lawn, it deepened my sense of inadequacy. Why couldn't I just enjoy my yard for what it was? Why did it need to look like something out of a landscaping magazine? This constant comparison not only affected me, but also seeped into the fabric of our community. Conversations often revolved around home improvement projects or lawn care tips, further reinforcing the idea that one's worth could somehow be quantified by how well they maintained their property. The pressure became palpable, an unspoken competition that dictated how we should live, what we should value, and how we should present ourselves to the world. Yet amidst this mounting anxiety and frustration, a flicker of rebellion ignited within me. As I wrestled with these feelings, I began to see this quest for perfection not as something to aspire to, but as something that could be creatively challenged. What if instead of conforming to this unrealistic standard, I embraced imperfection? What if I transformed my lawn into something that reflected joy, a winter wonderland that could bring smiles rather than stress? This shift in perspective was liberating. It allowed me to step back from the constraints of what perfect meant according to the HOA, and instead redefine it according to my own values. My vision began to take shape as I dreamt up twinkling lights draping over trees and cheerful snowmen scattered throughout the yard, each decoration telling a story and celebrating creativity rather than conformity. I realized that there was power in individuality. Embracing who we are and what we love can lead us toward happiness. The world can often feel like it's pushing us into boxes labeled normal or acceptable, but there is beauty in breaking free from those confines and expressing ourselves authentically. By taking a stand against this relentless pursuit of perfection, I hope not only to find liberation for myself, but also to inspire those around me. With every passing day, the idea of creating my winter wonderland became more appealing, a possible antidote to the suffocating expectations imposed by the HOA. I envisioned families walking by with their children, pointing at our whimsical displays with wide-eyed wonderment, laughing together as they enjoyed the spirit of winter rather than worrying about grass height or weed counts. As I began planning this transformation, I recognized an opportunity not only for personal expression, but also for fostering community connection. This endeavor could serve as an invitation for neighbors to engage with one another in new ways, sharing laughter over decorations or gathering together for hot cocoa under twinkling lights. It was about turning an act of defiance into an opportunity for joy. Ultimately, this journey toward creating my winter wonderland became more than just a response to an HOA demand. It evolved into a rebellion against societal pressures surrounding perfectionism. It became a chance for growth, a moment where I could reclaim control over how I wanted my home and my life to be defined. In embracing imperfection and celebrating creativity, I discovered a sense of freedom that transcended mere lawn care. It became a life philosophy. As preparations began for this whimsical transformation, I felt lighter with each passing day, a reminder that sometimes stepping away from what's expected allows us to discover who we truly are underneath it all. And so, with determination fueling my actions, I dove headfirst into planning this winter wonderland, a journey filled with potential laughter, creativity, and perhaps even a touch of magic waiting just around the corner. In the midst of grappling with the pressure of perfection imposed by the HOA, inspiration struck like a bolt of lightning, igniting a creative spark that would change everything. It happened one chilly evening as I sat by the window, sipping a cup of hot cocoa and watching the first flakes of snow flutter down from the sky. The world outside was transforming into a winter wonderland, blanketing everything in a soft layer of white, and I felt an overwhelming sense of possibility wash over me. As I gazed out at the snow-covered landscape, my imagination began to run wild. I envisioned my own yard transformed into a magical escape, a place filled with laughter, joy, and whimsical charm. Instead of agonizing over the HOA's demands for a perfect lawn, why not create something entirely unique that would bring smiles to my family and neighbors? The thought filled me with excitement and hope. The idea began to take shape in my mind. I could turn my front yard into a winter wonderland that would not only defy the HOA's rigid standards, but also celebrate the spirit of the season. My vision included twinkling lights strung across trees, cheerful snowmen standing proudly on display, and festive decorations that would capture the essence of winter joy. Each element would tell its own story, an invitation to all who passed by to pause, smile, and share in the magic. As I continued to sip my cocoa and watch the snowflakes dance outside my window, I felt an urge to grab a notebook and start jotting down all of my ideas. What if I created a path lined with glowing lanterns leading up to a grand snowman wearing a colorful scarf? Perhaps I could build an entire scene complete with reindeer made from wooden pallets and painted bright colors. The more I brainstormed, the clearer my vision became. In those moments of inspiration, I realized that this project wasn't just about decoration. It was about reclaiming joy in a way that had been overshadowed by the HOA's demands. The Winter Wonderland would not only be an expression of my creativity, but also a celebration of our community's spirit. It would serve as a reminder that sometimes it's important to step outside the confines of expectation and embrace what brings us happiness. I started doing some research online, seeking out inspiration from others who had created their own winter-themed displays. Pinterest became my best friend as I scrolled through endless images of dazzling light displays, creative snowman designs, and enchanting snowy scenes. Each click opened up new possibilities and fueled my excitement further. In those moments spent planning, I could feel my spirit lifting. I was no longer bound by feelings of inadequacy or pressure. Rather, I was filled with anticipation for what lay ahead. With each idea that flowed onto my pages, I began to formulate a plan. This transformation would take time and effort, but the vision motivated me to jump in headfirst. It dawned on me that this winter wonderland could also foster connection within our neighborhood, an opportunity for families to come together during this magical season instead of being divided by standards set by the HOA. As I mapped out each element of my design, I considered how it could engage passersby. What if people could stop and take pictures? What if they could bring their children to enjoy the whimsical scene? My heart swelled at the thought of creating something that would elicit laughter and delight from all who experienced it. This was more than just decoration. It was an expression of love for my home and community. I envisioned hosting small gatherings, perhaps inviting neighbors over for hot chocolate while we admired our collective efforts under twinkling lights. This project could serve as an antidote to the competitive atmosphere fostered by the HOA. Instead of comparing lawns or worrying about rules, we could connect through shared experiences and creativity. As inspiration sparked within me, it became clear that this winter wonderland was more than just defiance against perfectionism. It was an opportunity for growth and transformation on both personal and communal levels. It felt like a call to action, a chance to breathe life into our neighborhood through creativity rather than conformity. With renewed purpose coursing through me, I dove deeper into planning this magical transformation. It wasn't simply about creating a beautiful display. It was about embracing joy in every aspect of life, even when faced with challenges from outside forces like the HOA. This project represented freedom, the freedom to be myself, to celebrate imperfection, and to invite others along on this journey toward camaraderie. As days turned into weeks filled with brainstorming sessions and planning meetings with myself, excitement bubbled over within me. The vision for my winter wonderland had taken root firmly in my mind's eye, and each day brought me closer to making it a reality. With every decision made, from choosing decorations to strategizing how best to arrange them, I felt empowered by my newfound perspective. Inspiration had struck not only as a fleeting moment but as an ongoing journey, a catalyst for change both within myself and within my community. Fueled by creativity rather than conformity, I was ready to embark on this adventure toward crafting something truly special, a winter wonderland that would challenge expectations while igniting joy in all who encountered it. Little did I know how transformative this experience would become, not just for me, but for everyone around me as well. With a vision of my winter wonderland taking shape in my mind, it was time to turn inspiration into action. Planning this transformation became not just a task, but an exciting adventure filled with possibilities. I realized that to create the enchanting display I envisioned, I would need to map out each detail carefully, ensuring that every element came together seamlessly. First and foremost, I grabbed my notebook and began to outline my ideas systematically. The first thing I considered was the layout of the yard. I wanted to create a sense of flow and movement that would guide visitors through the space. I imagined a winding path leading from the sidewalk to my front door, lined with glowing lanterns that would illuminate the way. This would set the tone for the whimsical journey ahead, inviting neighbors and passers-by to step into a magical realm. Next, I thought about key focal points within the yard. At the heart of my winter wonderland, I envisioned a grand snowman standing proudly, adorned with colorful accessories, a scarf, a hat, and perhaps even some playful buttons for eyes. To make it more unique, I decided to use unconventional materials. Instead of traditional snow for building my snowman, I could use white fabric or even recycle materials to sculpt a whimsical figure. This not only provided an opportunity for creativity, but also aligned with my desire to embrace imperfection. I quickly realized that lighting would play a crucial role in creating an enchanting atmosphere. Twinkling fairy lights strung across trees and bushes would add a magical glow, transforming my yard into a captivating spectacle as night fell. I envisioned wrapping them around branches and draping them along the edges of my path to create an inviting ambience. The soft glow of lights against the backdrop of fresh snow would evoke warmth and joy, making it feel like a scene straight out of a holiday storybook. As I continued mapping out my ideas, I considered additional decorations that could enhance the overall experience. Inflatable figures like cheerful reindeer or friendly penguins could add charm while brightening up the landscape. I also thought about incorporating elements that encourage interaction, perhaps setting up a small area where kids could build their mini snowmen or create their own winter-themed crafts using supplies I could provide. Budgeting became another essential part of my planning process. While I wanted to go all out with decorations and lights, I needed to ensure that everything stayed within reason financially. So I made a list of everything I wanted to include and researched prices online. To save money, I decided to visit local thrift shops and clearance sales for decorations that could be repurposed or creatively modified. This not only helped me stick to a budget, but also added an element of sustainability to my project. Once I had gathered all my ideas and created a budget, it was time to organize a timeline for execution. Since winter could be unpredictable with weather changes, planning ahead became crucial. I marked key dates on my calendar, when to start purchasing decorations, when to begin setting up displays, and when the big reveal would take place. The excitement built as each date approached, knowing that soon my vision would come to life. In addition to logistics and budgeting, I also started considering how this project could involve others in the neighborhood. After all, One of the driving forces behind this transformation was my desire to foster community connections amid our competitive atmosphere shaped by HOA expectations. So, why not invite neighbors over for a collaborative decorating day? We could gather together armed with hot cocoa and holiday treats as we worked side by side, creating something truly special together. To gauge interest among neighbors, I decided to send out informal invitations through social media groups dedicated to our community. The response was overwhelmingly positive. People were excited about getting involved. Some offered materials they had lying around their homes. Others suggested ideas they had seen in their travels or on social media platforms. It felt empowering knowing we were all rallying together around this shared vision of joy and creativity. As preparations continued, I found myself immersed in conversations about what we wanted our winter wonderland to represent: a break from perfectionism and an embrace of individuality while celebrating the season's magic. It was heartwarming to see how this project sparked enthusiasm among neighbors who had previously communicated only in passing or during HOA meetings. With each detail meticulously planned, from lights and decorations to community involvement, I felt an increasing sense of anticipation build within me. My winter wonderland was no longer just an idea. It was transforming into something tangible, a collaborative effort filled with laughter and creativity. As the days turned into weeks leading up to our decorating day, excitement buzzed in the air like electricity. The prospect of creating something beautiful together fueled my motivation even further. It was more than just about defying the HOA's rigid standards. It was about coming together as a community united by joy and imagination. By laying down these plans for transformation, I was not only preparing for a winter wonderland, I was crafting an experience that would resonate throughout our neighborhood, a chance for everyone involved to step outside their comfort zones and celebrate what makes us unique while fostering connection amidst the hustle of suburban life. And so, with each carefully laid plan taking shape before me, the path illuminated by lanterns, the grand snowman poised proudly at its center, I felt ready for what lay ahead. An extraordinary journey toward crafting something truly magical in defiance of perfectionism and in celebration of community spirit during this festive season. The day had finally arrived for the execution of my winter wonderland, and excitement coursed through me. After weeks of planning, brainstorming, and gathering supplies, it was time to bring my vision to life. I woke up early, the crisp air filled with a sense of anticipation. I could hardly wait to see how everything would transform my yard into a festive spectacle. As the sun began to rise, casting a soft glow on the freshly fallen snow, I gathered my materials, boxes filled with decorations, lights, and crafting supplies. My heart raced as I prepared for the day ahead. Today wasn't just about decorating. It was about creating something magical that would resonate with my community and defy the expectations of perfection set by the HOA. The first step in executing my plan involved laying out the path that would lead visitors into my winter wonderland. Armed with a roll of glowing LED lights, I carefully arranged them along the edges of the walkway. As I knelt in the snow, securing each light to create a welcoming glow, I felt invigorated by the chill in the air and the promise of what was to come. The lights twinkled like stars as they began to illuminate the space, creating a sense of warmth and cheer even in the winter's chill. Next came the grand centerpiece, my snowman. Having decided to create him from white fabric and recycled materials instead of traditional snow, I gathered everything I needed: old sheets for his body, discarded buttons for his eyes, and an array of colorful scarves from local thrift shops. With each piece I added, my excitement grew. This snowman would be unlike any other, reflecting creativity rather than conventionality. As I constructed him, neighbors began to wander by, drawn in by visions of what was unfolding. Some paused to admire the glowing path, while others approached curiously to inquire about what I was creating. "It's a winter wonderland," I exclaimed with enthusiasm. "Come help me build it." Their eyes lit up at the invitation as they eagerly offered assistance or shared ideas for additional decorations. Before long, a small group had gathered around me, eager to contribute their own flair to this collaborative project. We laughed and exchanged stories as we worked together, transforming my yard into a space filled with joy and creativity. One neighbor brought out a collection of inflatable holiday figures, jolly reindeer and cheerful penguins that soon joined our scene. Others helped string lights across trees and bushes, creating an enchanting canopy overhead. As we decorated together, I couldn't help but feel grateful for this sense of community that was blossoming before my eyes. It was as if we were all shedding our worries about perfectionism and embracing a new purpose, celebrating individuality through collaboration. Each person brought their own unique ideas and contributions to the table, resulting in a vibrant tapestry of creativity that reflected our collective spirit. With every new decoration added, a family of snowmen here or twinkling lights there, the winter wonderland began to take shape in ways I had never imagined. Children giggled as they helped build smaller snowmen alongside their parents, while adults exchanged smiles over shared memories of their own holiday traditions. The atmosphere buzzed with laughter. It felt like we were reclaiming joy amidst the pressures that usually hung over our neighborhood. As twilight began to settle in, casting a soft blue hue over everything, we stepped back to admire our handiwork. The yard transformed into an enchanting spectacle, a magical realm lit up by colorful lights and filled with whimsical figures dancing in the glow. The grand snowman stood proudly at his center, wearing his scarf like a badge of honor. He had become more than just decoration. He symbolized camaraderie and joy within our community. With everything finally in place for our big reveal later that evening, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment wash over me. This project had evolved beyond mere decoration. It represented rebellion against conformity and a celebration of individuality within our neighborhood. As darkness fell and families gathered outside for the unveiling, excitement crackled in the air like static electricity. Neighbors began arriving one by one, children bundled up in their winter gear, and adults carrying cups of hot cocoa, ready to share amidst laughter and cheer. It was heartwarming to see so many people come together for this moment. It felt like we were all partaking in something truly special. When everyone finally gathered around, the golden glow from lanterns illuminating faces filled with excitement. I took a deep breath before announcing, "Welcome to our winter wonderland." A wave of applause erupted from those gathered as they took their first look at what we had created together. The expressions on their faces were priceless, eyes wide with delight as they explored each corner of our whimsical display. Laughter echoed through the night as families posed for pictures next to our grand snowman or admired playful decorations scattered throughout the yard. In that moment, under twinkling lights surrounded by joyous neighbors who had come together not just as individuals, but as a community united by creativity, everything felt right. We had transformed not only my yard, but also our sense of belonging amidst often rigid expectations dictated by an HOA. As children squealed with delight at every new discovery, while adults shared heartfelt conversations over warm drinks beneath shimmering stars, it became clear this winter wonderland was not merely an act of defiance against perfectionism. It was an embodiment of joy that transcended boundaries set by others. And so began this extraordinary journey filled with laughter and connection, a winter wonderland that reminded us all how powerful creativity could be when shared collectively, a celebration not just of decor, but also of spirit, a true reflection of who we were as individuals coming together in harmony under one beautiful sky. As the days turned into weeks following the grand unveiling of my winter wonderland, I found myself brimming with excitement as I observed the community's reactions. What had started as a personal act of defiance against an HOA demanding perfection had blossomed into something much larger, a heartwarming celebration of joy and creativity that captured the spirit of our neighborhood. In the initial days after the transformation, I was pleasantly surprised by the influx of visitors. Families strolled by to admire the whimsical decorations, children squealing with delight at every new sight. They would stop to take pictures next to the grand snowman, adorned with an oversized scarf and a beaming smile. I watched as parents snapped photos and kids posed, their laughter echoing through the air, a sound that filled my heart with warmth. It felt as though my front yard had become a gathering place, a space where joy could flourish and memories could be made. Neighbors began to share their thoughts on social media platforms dedicated to our community. Many praised the transformation, expressing how it brought a sense of magic to our otherwise routine lives. Comments poured in, words of appreciation not just for the aesthetics, but for what it represented, a break from conformity and a chance to celebrate individuality. "This is amazing," one neighbor wrote. "Thank you for reminding us that it's okay to have fun and be creative." Such feedback invigorated me further, reinforcing the sense of purpose behind my winter wonderland. However, amid all the positivity, I was also acutely aware that not everyone shared this enthusiasm. As with any community, there were differing opinions about what constituted appropriate decorum. The HOA's expectations still loomed large in some residents' minds. A few individuals voiced their concerns about whether such displays might set a precedent for more extravagant decorations that could disrupt the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony. Some questioned if my winter wonderland would lead to an influx of similar displays, potentially challenging the established norms. One evening, while chatting with a neighbor over hot cocoa at a small gathering in my front yard, I learned more about these mixed feelings. "I love what you've done here. It's so joyful," she said with genuine excitement. But I overheard some people saying they're worried this will lead to chaos in our neighborhood. Her honesty struck a chord. While I appreciated her support, I also recognized that not everyone felt comfortable breaking away from tradition. Determined not to let any negativity dampen my spirits or diminish the joy we had created, I decided to engage with those around me constructively. Instead of shying away from conversations about the HOA or potential concerns regarding decorum, I embraced them as opportunities for dialogue. After all, not every change is easy to accept, especially when it challenges long-standing norms. I organized an informal gathering inviting both supporters and skeptics alike. The goal was simple: create an open space for discussion where everyone could voice their thoughts without judgment. As neighbors arrived one frosty evening with warm drinks in hand, I felt optimistic about fostering understanding amidst diverse perspectives. To my surprise, as we sat together sharing stories and experiences around our winter wonderland, common ground began to emerge. Many participants expressed their appreciation for creativity and individuality, but also articulated concerns about maintaining property values and community standards. Creating this dialogue allowed us all to share our views openly, while recognizing that we could coexist harmoniously even when our opinions differed. Throughout these discussions, it became evident that some neighbors longed for ways to express themselves creatively, but felt constrained by fears of judgment or repercussions from HOA regulations. This revelation sparked another idea within me. Why not host seasonal decorating workshops? We could gather together regularly during holidays or special occasions, encouraging neighbors to explore their creativity while building a sense of community. As conversations continued over weeks following our initial gathering, various ideas emerged: theme decorating nights or collaborative projects that would allow everyone an outlet for expression without fear of stepping on anyone's toes. My winter wonderland had inadvertently sparked a movement toward embracing creativity within our neighborhood, an opportunity for residents to showcase their personalities while celebrating togetherness. Gradually, even those initially apprehensive about my display began to come around. They saw how much joy it brought not only to their families, but also how it fostered connections among neighbors who might never have interacted otherwise. The laughter and camaraderie blossoming around my yard became infectious. It was hard not to feel uplifted by such shared joy. As winter progressed and snow continued to blanket our landscape, visits grew more frequent, families coming together not just to admire the decorations, but also participating in spontaneous gatherings filled with laughter and warmth. Neighbors exchanged holiday treats and stories under twinkling lights. Children played games amidst cheerful decorations they helped create themselves. The transformation was undeniable. What started as an act of rebellion against rigid perfectionism evolved into something far more significant, an embodiment of community spirit shaped by creativity and collaboration amidst diversity. Through these interactions, both supportive and challenging, I learned valuable lessons about balancing individuality with shared spaces within our neighborhood context. They reaffirmed my belief that fostering open dialogue leads us toward understanding rather than division, a reminder that embracing differences can yield beautiful results when done collectively. With each passing day came deeper connections formed through laughter shared beneath sparkling stars, A winter wonderland providing not only visual delight but also forging bonds among neighbors who had once only exchanged polite nods or brief greetings as they hurried past one another on their way home. Reflecting back on this journey so far, I couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed within myself and those around me since taking that first step toward creating something truly magical in defiance of perfectionism all those weeks ago. As the winter wonderland continued to thrive and evolve with the participation of neighbors, a sense of joyous community filled the air. However, amidst this celebration, I was acutely aware that the HOA's gaze lingered over my lawn transformation. I had anticipated that my defiance of their standards might elicit a response, but the reality of that moment still struck me with a mix of anxiety and determination. One crisp morning, as I sipped my coffee while watching the sun peek over the horizon, I noticed an unfamiliar figure walking slowly down my street. A representative in a blazer, clipboard in hand. My heart raced as I recognized who he was. He was someone I had seen at previous HOA meetings, known for his stern demeanor and unwavering commitment to enforcing neighborhood regulations. As he approached my yard, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. He paused to survey the scene in front of him, my winter wonderland aglow with lights, vibrant decorations, and laughter spilling from neighbors gathered nearby. For a moment, everything felt suspended in time. Would he appreciate the joy this display brought to our community? Or would he focus solely on perceived violations? After a brief moment of silence, he finally turned to me. "I need to speak with you about your decorations," he said, his tone serious but not unkind. "We've received several complaints from residents regarding your display." My heart sank at those words. Complaints? I had hoped that this transformation would foster goodwill among neighbors rather than stir discontent. But as he continued speaking, it became clear that not everyone was on board with my vision. "While we appreciate creativity," he continued, "there are concerns that such extravagant displays may set a precedent that could lead to chaos within our neighborhood." He gestured toward the decorations, adding, "Some residents feel it detracts from the uniformity we strive for here." I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm as I processed his words. "I understand your concerns," I replied thoughtfully. "But this winter wonderland has brought our community together in ways I never expected. Families are engaging with one another and creating memories. It's become a source of joy during the holiday season." His expression softened slightly as he listened, but I could tell he remained firm in his stance. "I appreciate your passion for community engagement," he said, "but we have guidelines in place for a reason. The HOA aims to maintain property values and ensure a certain aesthetic throughout the neighborhood." Despite feeling disheartened by his response, I knew I couldn't back down from what this project represented, not just for me, but for everyone involved. "I truly believe we can find a balance," I urged. "This display is temporary and meant to celebrate the spirit of winter. It's an opportunity for us all to connect beyond the confines of HOA rules." The conversation continued as we discussed potential compromises, perhaps limiting certain elements or agreeing on specific guidelines for future displays. While it wasn't an easy dialogue, I felt hopeful that we could reach an understanding. However, despite my best efforts at diplomacy, the HOA ultimately decided to impose restrictions on my winter wonderland after much deliberation. In a follow-up letter sent to me days later, they cited several points regarding compliance with community aesthetics and reminded me that while creative expressions were welcome, they should remain within established parameters. The news hit hard. I had anticipated some pushback but hadn't expected restrictions on my project so swiftly after its success. It felt like a gut punch, a reminder that even amid joy and connection, there were still rules governing how we expressed ourselves within our own homes. Yet rather than allowing disappointment to overshadow all that had transpired, the laughter shared among neighbors or friendships forged through collaboration, I recognize this moment as part of our ongoing journey as a community. This winter wonderland had ignited conversations about creativity and individuality. It had encouraged others to voice their desires for more freedom of expression within our neighborhood. Determined not to let this setback stifle our newfound spirit of camaraderie, I gathered those who had participated in creating the winter wonderland for an impromptu meeting at my house. As we sat together sipping cocoa around my dining table, decorated with leftover holiday crafts from our project, I shared the news about the HOA's decision. To my surprise and relief, rather than dismay or frustration among the group, there was an overwhelming sense of resilience filling the room. "This doesn't mean we have to stop celebrating," one neighbor exclaimed passionately. "We can still spread joy and come together, even if it looks different moving forward." Inspired by their enthusiasm and willingness to pivot rather than retreat from creativity altogether, we brainstorm alternatives for future seasonal gatherings, ways to honor both individual expression while remaining respectful of HOA guidelines. Through these discussions emerged new ideas, perhaps hosting potluck dinners during holidays where everyone could bring festive dishes, or organizing craft nights throughout the year focused on creating seasonal decorations together without stepping outside prescribed boundaries. With each suggestion shared among friends, each offering their perspectives, I felt renewed hope rising within me once again. It became clear that despite challenges posed by regulations or expectations laid out before us, our spirit remained unbroken. Ultimately, while navigating through HOA responses might be complex, what mattered most was how we chose to react moving forward as a united front committed to maintaining connection amid constraint. Reflecting back on this experience served as a reminder. Sometimes embracing creativity means embracing challenges along with it, recognizing moments when compromise is necessary, yet not allowing them to dim our collective light, shining brightly through winter nights filled with laughter and warmth shared among friends. In navigating through these responses from HOA representatives, while facing consequences along the way, I learned invaluable lessons about resilience, a testament not just for myself but also for everyone who joined me in making our winter wonderland come alive. As winter deepened and the festive spirit lingered, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had led me to transform my lawn into a winter wonderland. What began as an act of defiance against the HOA's demands for perfection evolved into a celebration of creativity and community. It was a powerful reminder that joy often lies in the most unconventional choices, especially when we dare to stray from societal norms. In the aftermath of navigating HOA restrictions and community responses, I realized the importance of finding happiness in the choices I made, choices that were not dictated by rules but rather inspired by a desire to embrace individuality. Each decoration, every twinkling light, symbolized more than mere aesthetics. They embodied the spirit of freedom to express oneself authentically. It was during one particularly snowy evening that this realization struck me most profoundly. The air was crisp, and the world outside my window glistened with fresh snowflakes. As I stepped outside to take in the scene, I felt a sense of wonder wash over me. The winter wonderland sparkled under the moonlight, evoking a feeling of magic that I had not experienced in years. I could hear laughter and chatter from neighbors gathered around, their faces lit up with joy as they admired our creation. In that moment, I understood how important it was to embrace choices that might not align with conventional expectations. Our winter wonderland had become a symbol of joy not only for myself but for everyone who participated in its creation. Families came together, engaged in conversations, shared stories, and created memories, reminders of what it meant to connect genuinely with one another. In embracing this unconventional path, I discovered newfound courage within myself. It wasn't just about standing up against the HO. It was about standing up for what brought me joy and celebrating the uniqueness each person had to offer. While some neighbors might have been hesitant about my display at first, many others rallied behind it, sparking a movement toward embracing creativity rather than conforming to rigid standards. As I chatted with neighbors during impromptu gatherings around my yard, I learned more about their own experiences with conformity and creativity. Some shared stories of how they had felt pressured to keep their homes looking pristine at all times, how they longed for opportunities to express themselves through decorating without fear of judgment. These conversations opened doors for deeper connections, spaces where we could encourage one another to embrace our quirks and celebrate individuality. To cultivate this sense of belonging further, I initiated seasonal crafting nights at my home. Inspired by our collective experiences with a winter wonderland, we gathered together regularly to create decorations for various holidays throughout the year, each gathering infused with laughter and camaraderie. From making handmade ornaments in preparation for Christmas to designing colorful flower arrangements for spring celebrations, these gatherings became cherished moments where we could bond over creativity. Through these crafting nights, we began to break free from the confines of conventionality, not just in decorating, but also in how we approached life within our neighborhood. We entertained ideas that embraced innovation while still respecting community aesthetics set forth by the HOA. We decorated our homes with personal touches that reflected who we were as individuals, a tapestry woven together by our unique stories. Finding joy in unconventional choices also meant learning how to redefine what perfection looked like within our community. No longer did it mean adhering strictly to guidelines set forth by an organization. Instead, it became a celebration of authenticity, an acceptance that imperfections could coexist beautifully alongside creativity. This shift allowed us all to breathe easier as we explored new avenues for expression without fear of retribution. As spring approached and blossoms began blooming around us, I felt grateful for the journey we had embarked upon together. The friendships formed and connections deepened through shared experiences centered around creativity and joy. There was something profound about being part of a community willing to embrace change, one where laughter echoed through yards filled with personalized decorations and unique expressions of individuality rather than uniformity dictated by rules alone. Each time I strolled past my winter wonderland or participated in crafting nights filled with vibrant conversations, it served as a reminder. Joy thrived when we dared to step outside conventional boundaries, to create spaces where everyone could belong while proudly showcasing their true selves. Thus began an ongoing journey towards celebration over conformity, a path illuminated by creativity rather than pressure. A testament not only to what we had built together, but also an affirmation that finding joy often stems from courageous choices made amidst adversity. In embracing those unconventional choices, the whimsical decorations illuminating our streets or the vibrant crafts adorning our homes, I discovered something priceless. Happiness thrives when nurtured through connection, authenticity, and shared experiences among those who dare to celebrate life differently. As the winter wonderland continued to shimmer under the night sky, I found myself reflecting on the profound impact it had on the dynamics of our community. What began as a personal rebellion against the HOA's demand for a perfect lawn had blossomed into something far greater, a catalyst for connection, creativity, and camaraderie among neighbors. The transformation of my yard was no longer just about aesthetics. It had sparked a shift in how we interacted with one another. In those initial weeks following the unveiling, I noticed a palpable change in the atmosphere of our neighborhood. Families who once exchanged only polite nods became more engaged, stopping to chat as they admired the decorations, sharing stories about their own holiday traditions and experiences. The laughter of children playing nearby blended with the warm conversations among adults, creating an inviting environment that fostered genuine connections. The Winter Wonderland had become a gathering place, a hub of activity where neighbors could come together to celebrate joy and creativity. It wasn't just the decorations that drew people in. It was the spirit of community that enveloped us all. For many, it served as an escape from the pressures of daily life, a chance to unwind and revel in the simple pleasures of togetherness. As families visited my yard to take pictures or enjoy hot cocoa, I began to witness deeper connections form. Neighbors who may have previously felt isolated were now mingling with one another, forging friendships that transcended the confines of HOA regulations. This newfound sense of belonging transformed our interactions. We were no longer just residents living side by side, but members of a vibrant community united by shared experiences. With this shift came increased participation in other neighborhood activities. Inspired by our winter wonderland and its ability to foster connection, neighbors began organizing potlucks, craft nights, and seasonal celebrations. The spirit of collaboration took root as individuals contributed their unique talents and ideas, creating an ongoing cycle of creativity that enriched our lives collectively. I remember one evening when we hosted a gathering to decorate cookies together. Families brought their own ingredients and tools, turning my kitchen into a lively hub filled with laughter and flower-covered hands. As we baked and decorated cookies shaped like snowflakes and reindeer, stories flowed freely. The talk echoed with memories of childhood traditions, recipes passed down through generations, and new ideas for future gatherings. It was heartwarming to see how something as simple as baking could deepen connections among neighbors. The impact on community dynamics extended beyond just social interactions. It also influenced how we viewed our homes and spaces within the neighborhood. With each gathering, there was a growing realization that individuality could coexist beautifully alongside community standards. Residents began embracing their unique tastes when decorating their own homes, whether through colorful flower displays in spring or festive lights during holidays, breaking free from rigid adherence to conformity. Conversations shifted towards celebrating personal expression rather than merely adhering to what was deemed acceptable by HOA guidelines. This evolution marked a significant cultural shift within our neighborhood, a recognition that joy could come from embracing differences rather than suppressing them. Even those who initially expressed concerns about my winter wonderland began to appreciate its value in fostering community spirit. They witnessed firsthand how creativity could bring people together, transforming our neighborhood from a collection of houses into a vibrant tapestry woven together by shared experiences. Complaints faded as they recognized that what mattered most was not uniformity but connection, the bonds created through laughter, collaboration, and joyful moments spent together. As spring approached and winter melted away into warmer weather, I found myself excited about how our community would continue this journey beyond seasonal decorations. The friendships forged over cookie decorating or crafting nights would blossom into something more, a commitment to maintaining connections year-round through shared interests and gatherings. The impact on community dynamics had become a testament to the power of creativity as a unifying force. It reminded us all how essential it is to embrace joy amidst life's challenges. Our willingness to step outside conventional boundaries paved the way for deeper relationships founded on authenticity rather than mere compliance with expectations. Reflecting back on this journey filled me with gratitude for every neighbor who contributed their time or ideas toward creating our winter wonderland, for every laugh shared amidst decorations transformed into cherished memories, for every moment spent connecting with those around me in ways I never thought possible before embarking on this adventure. Ultimately, what started as an act of defiance against perfectionism evolved into something beautiful, an invitation for everyone involved to celebrate individuality while fostering genuine connections that enriched our lives collectively. As we moved forward from winter into spring, a season symbolizing renewal, I felt hopeful about what lay ahead for our community. The bonds we formed would continue shaping us long after the last snowflake melted away, a reminder that finding joy in unconventional choices can lead not only to personal fulfillment, but also create lasting impacts within our neighborhoods as well. As I reflect on the journey that unfolded from the moment I received that first letter from the HOA, it's clear that what began as a demand for a perfect lawn transformed into a vibrant celebration of individuality and community spirit. The experience has been nothing short of remarkable, illustrating not only the power of creativity, but also the importance of embracing who we are, even in the face of external pressures. The winter wonderland I created became far more than just a festive display. It evolved into a symbol of freedom and expression. In defying the rigid standards imposed by the HOA, I found a voice that resonated with my desire to celebrate joy and foster connections within my neighborhood. What started as an act of rebellion blossomed into a movement that encouraged others to express their uniqueness and engage in meaningful interactions. Throughout this journey, I learned that individuality is something worth celebrating. Each decoration, every light strung across trees, and all the laughter shared during crafting nights served as reminders that our differences contribute to the richness of our lives. Embracing who we are allows us to connect with others on deeper levels, forging bonds that transcend superficial expectations. The impact on community dynamics was profound. Families who once exchanged only polite nods now gathered together, united by a shared experience that brought warmth and joy into their lives. The winter wonderland fostered an environment where conversations flourished, friendships blossomed, and creativity thrived. It became clear that when we dare to embrace individuality, we open doors to connection and collaboration that enrich our lives collectively. Even in moments when challenges arose, like navigating HOA restrictions or addressing concerns from neighbors, The experience taught me resilience and adaptability. Rather than retreating in fear of judgment or criticism, we found strength in our community. We learned to engage in open dialogue, fostering understanding rather than division. This journey reinforced the idea that embracing individuality doesn't mean rejecting collective responsibility. It means finding ways to harmonize our unique expressions with the values we share as a community. Looking ahead, I feel hopeful about what this newfound spirit will bring to our neighborhood. The friendships formed during those winter gatherings will continue to flourish as we embark on new adventures, crafting seasonal decorations together or organizing potlucks filled with laughter and stories. Each event will serve as an opportunity for us all to embrace our identities while cultivating connections that bind us together. As spring begins to paint our landscape with vibrant colors, I'm reminded of how essential it is to carry forward the lessons learned from this experience. Let us continue to celebrate our quirks and differences, to create spaces where everyone feels welcomed and valued for who they are. When individuality is embraced rather than stifled, communities can thrive, becoming places where joy is found amidst collaboration and creativity. Through this journey, I have discovered an empowering truth. When we choose to express ourselves authentically, we inspire others to do the same. Our willingness to step outside conventional boundaries invites creativity into our lives, reminding us that there is beauty in imperfection and strength in vulnerability. In embracing individuality, we create a tapestry woven with diverse threads, a community rich in character, laughter, and shared experiences that reflect who we truly are. It is through these connections that we find support during challenging times and celebrate one another's successes during joyful moments. As I prepare for whatever seasons lie ahead, whether it be summer barbecues filled with laughter or autumn gatherings adorned with colorful leaves, I carry with me the spirit of this transformative journey. The winter wonderland may have been dismantled, but its essence continues to thrive within each interaction shared among neighbors. So let us move forward together, united by our differences while celebrating what makes us unique. Embrace your individuality. Let it shine brightly like twinkling lights dancing against a starry sky. Together, we can cultivate communities where everyone feels empowered to be themselves, a world where joy blossoms amid creative expression. Ultimately, this experience has reinforced my belief that when we embrace who we are authentically, we not only enrich our own lives but also inspire others along the way, creating waves of positivity that ripple throughout our neighborhoods and beyond. Here's to celebrating individuality, the heart connection, and building communities filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. The end.